I never thought I'd be the kind of person who documents everything. Growing up, I was the one who let things slide, who smoothed over tension at family dinners, who said it's fine when it wasn't. My mother used to call me her peacemaker. My father would ruffle my hair and say I had the patience of a saint. Ashley, my younger sister, just called me boring. Maybe I was. While she was out at college parties, I was working double shifts at Carolinas Medical Center, rotating between the ICU rehab wing and outpatient trauma care. While she backpacked through Europe one summer, I was eating meal-prepped chicken and rice in the break room, updating my budgeting journal. I kept it in my locker, a plain black notebook with columns for every dollar. Income. Expenses. Savings. Goal, $250,000. 12 years. That's how long it took me to save $214,000. People don't realize what that means, not just the money, but the life you don't live while you're saving it. The vacations you don't take. The dates you turn down because you're covering someone's shift. The moment you realize you're 36 years old and you've never had a place that felt like yours. I was 2 weeks away from closing on a townhouse in South End, Charlotte. 3 bedrooms, exposed brick, a small balcony where I'd imagined drinking coffee on Sunday mornings. I'd already picked out paint colors. Sage green for the kitchen. Warm grey for the living room. I had the samples in my purse. Then my mother called. "Lauren, honey." Her voice was shaking. I don't know what to do. I was in the parking garage at the hospital, keys in hand. "Mom? What's wrong?" "The bank." She started crying, that gasping kind that sounds like drowning. "They're taking the house. 45 days. Your father, he tried, but with the medical bills and Ashley's student loans." My stomach dropped. "What medical bills?" "It doesn't matter now. We're going to lose everything." She was sobbing harder. "I'm so sorry. I didn't want to burden you. You've worked so hard." I sat down on the concrete step. My parents had lived in that house for 23 years. I'd learned to ride a bike in that driveway. My father had built the deck out back with his own hands. "How much?" I asked. "What?" "How much do you need?" She went quiet for a moment. "Oh, sweetheart, no. I couldn't ask you." "How much, Mom?" "A foreclosure. They said if we can come up with the back payments and refinance." Her voice broke again. $210,000. "But that's impossible. We'll figure something out. Maybe we can rent somewhere." I looked at my phone screen, at the date. My closing was in 13 days. "I can help," I heard myself say. "Lauren, no. That's your house money. You've been saving for so long. The house will still be there later. I can put in another offer when." "Are you sure?" She whispered. "Are you absolutely sure?" I wasn't. But I said yes anyway. The next morning, I called my realtor and pulled out of the contract. I lost the earnest money, $5,000, but that felt small compared to what my parents were facing. By the end of the week, I'd wired $214,000 to their account. We decided I'd take out a mortgage for the remaining $205,000 to cover the refinance and put the property in my name. It made sense legally. My credit was excellent. They'd been through too much financial stress. "It's still your home," I told them on the phone. "I'm just helping get you stable." My mother cried again, but differently this time. Relief, I thought. Gratitude. "You're an angel," as she said. We'll pay you back. Every cent. Just get back on your feet, EI said. That's enough. They moved back in. I stayed in my apartment, a cramped one-bedroom in Noder where the upstairs neighbours fought every Thursday and the water pressure was a prayer. But I told myself it was temporary. Another year, maybe 2, and I'd save enough for another down payment. I was good at waiting. I'd been doing it my whole life. 18 months passed. I picked up extra shifts. I stopped checking Zillow. Every time I visited my parents, the house looked good, new furniture in the living room, fresh paint in the hallway. My mother had planted hydrangeas along the front path. They're beautiful, EI said. Ashley helped me pick them out, as she said, smiling. She has such an eye for these things. Ashley had moved back home 6 months earlier after a breakup. She was working part-time at a boutique downtown, talking about starting a lifestyle blog. My mother doted on her, made her favorite meals, did her laundry. I didn't mind. I was the older sister. I was supposed to be the stable one. Then came the party. Ashley had been dating Brandon for 8 months, a decent guy, worked in marketing, seemed genuinely kind. When she called to invite me to their big announcement, I assumed it was an engagement. I showed up on a Saturday afternoon. The house was full of people, Ashley's friends, my parents' neighbours, cousins I hadn't seen in years. There was a champagne tower. Someone had set up a tripod for Instagram live streaming. My mother was wearing a new dress. Lauren. Ashley spotted me from across the room and rushed over, glowing. You made it. Wouldn't miss it, I said, hugging her. Congratulations. She beamed. We haven't even announced yet. I can guess. She laughed and pulled me toward the living room where Brandon stood with my parents. My father clapped him on the shoulder. My mother was dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Ashley clinked a glass. The room went quiet. Thank you all for coming, as she said, her voice bright and performative in that way she perfected for social media. Brandon and I have 2 amazing pieces of news to share. She held up her left hand. A modest diamond caught the light. People clapped. We're engaged. More applause. My mother hugged her. I felt my face arrange itself into a smile. Anne, Ashley paused for effect, one hand drifting to her stomach. We're expecting. The room erupted. I hugged her because that's what you do. I hugged Brandon. I told them I was happy for them. And I was, in the abstract way you're happy when good things happen to people you love, even when you're standing in your $10 Target dress feeling like furniture. But then my mother took the microphone. We have one more announcement, as she said, eyes shining. Your father and I have been talking, and with a baby coming, as she looked at Ashley with such tenderness. We've decided to officially sign the house over to Ashley and Brandon. My vision narrowed. I heard the words but couldn't process them. It's time, and my mother continued. We want to give them the stability they need to start their family. This house has so much love in it. Now it's theirs. People clapped again. Someone whistled. Ashley hugged my mother. I stood frozen in the middle of the room, champagne glass sweating in my hand. Ashley caught my eye across the crowd. She walked over, still glowing. Isn't it amazing? She said. I know it seems fast, but Mom and Dad insisted. They said the timing was perfect. The house was already in my name, I said quietly. My voice didn't sound like mine. Oh, that was just paperwork while things got sorted out, she said, waving a hand. You know how that stuff works. Legal whatever. Ashley. Brandon's dad helped with the transfer. He knows a real estate attorney. She squeezed my arm. Thank you for everything you did to help. Seriously. This wouldn't have happened without you getting them through that rough patch. She floated away before I could respond. I watched her take selfies with friends, one hand on her barely there belly, radiant with the kind of joy that doesn't question itself. I set down my champagne and walked to the bathroom. Locked the door. Sat on the closed toilet and tried to breathe. There was never a foreclosure. The thought arrived fully formed, cold and certain. I would have seen the filing. I would have been notified. My name was on the deed. I splashed water on my face and looked at myself in the mirror. My mother's hand towels hung perfectly aligned on the rack, monogrammed, expensive. I'd given her $214,000 18 months ago. She'd planted hydrangeas. I dried my hands and walked back out into the party. My mother was talking to a neighbor. My father was refilling the champagne tower. Ashley was posing for photos with Brandon. Both of them laughing. I found my way to my mother's home office, a converted bedroom at the end of the upstairs hall. I'd helped her organize it once, assembled the desk from IKEA, hung the floating shelves. I told myself I was just looking. Just checking. The filing cabinet wasn't even locked. The first folder was labeled E-House, Original. Inside, the warranty deed from the refinance. Property address, legal description, and my name. Owner, Lauren Elizabeth Mitchell. Dated January 14, 2024. The second folder was labeled E-House, Transfer. Inside was a quitclaim deed. Property transferred from Lauren Elizabeth Mitchell to Ashley Marie Mitchell. Dated March 3, 2025. My signature at the bottom. Except I'd never signed it. I'd seen my signature thousands of times, on patient charts, insurance forms, prescriptions. I knew the way I looped the L, the way the Mitchell slanted right. This was close. Very close. But the pressure was wrong. The rhythm was off. There was more. A notary stamp from someone named Kristen Parrish. I didn't recognize the name. An email printout from Brandon's father's attorney. I want to reiterate my concerns about proceeding without Lauren's explicit consent and presence. If this transfer is contested, it could expose the family to significant legal liability. I strongly advise direct communication. A handwritten note in my mother's handwriting. Ashley, Kay said she can notarize Thursday if you bring lunch. Make sure it looks right. My hands were shaking. I took out my phone and photographed everything. Every page. Every stamp. Every note. The filing cabinet label. The folder tabs. I made sure the date stamps were visible. Then I put everything back exactly as I'd found it. I walked downstairs. My mother was saying goodbye to guests at the door. Leaving already, honey? She asked. Early shift tomorrow, I said. Thank you for coming. It means so much to Ashley. I looked at her. She looked back at me with the same warm eyes that had cried on the phone 18 months ago. The bank is taking the house. Congratulations on the transfer, I said. Oh, well. She smiled. It was time. You understand. I drove home in silence. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I sat in my apartment with the lights off and went through the photos on my phone one by one. Then I opened my laptop and started a new document. Timeline. Evidence. Facts. Monday morning, I called my cousin Rachel. She worked in the Mecklenburg County Property Records Office, had been there 11 years, knew the system inside and out. We'd been close as kids, drifted as adults, but stayed in touch enough to meet for coffee twice a year. "Hey, stranger," as she said when she picked up. "What's going on?" "I need a favor," I said. "And I need you to not ask questions until I explain everything." Silence. Then, okay. "Can you pull the filing history on a property? I need to know if there was ever a foreclosure notice." "Lauren, if this is about your parents' house." "Please." She sighed. "Give me the address." I gave it to her. She put me on hold. I stared at the wall of my apartment, at the water stain in the corner I'd stopped seeing years ago. She came back 5 minutes later. "There was no foreclosure filing," she said quietly. "No notices. No lease pendants. Nothing." "What about the quitclaim deed?" Recorded April 2nd, 2025. Notarized by Kristen Parrish. She paused. "Lauren, what the hell is going on?" "They lied," I said. "There was never a foreclosure. I gave them $214,000 to save a house that wasn't in trouble. Then they forged my signature to transfer it to Ashley." Jesus Christ. "Can I get certified copies of everything? The original deed, the transfer, the full chain of title?" "Yeah. But Lauren, if you're thinking what I think you're thinking." "I'm not thinking anything yet," I said. "I just need the records." "Okay," she said. "Give me until end of day. I'll drop them off tonight." She showed up at 6 p.m. with a manila envelope. We sat on my couch and went through everything. The paper trail was clean in the worst way, every form filed properly, every stamp in place. Except for the signature. Except for the lie. "You need a lawyer," Rachel said. "I know. A good one." "I know." She wrote down a name on a post-it note. Daniel Brooks. Civil litigation. She'd gone to high school with his paralegal. "He's tough," she said. "But fair. He won't jerk you around." I called the next morning. Daniel's office was in Uptown Charlotte, a medium-sized firm that didn't feel corporate. When I walked in for the consultation 2 days later, he met me in a conference room with glass walls and a whiteboard covered in case notes. "Tell me everything," he said. I did. I laid out the photos. The documents Rachel had pulled. The timeline. The party. The forged signature. The notary. The lawyer's warning email. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he sat back and folded his hands. "This is fraud," he said. "Clue cut. The question is how you want to handle it. What are the options? Civil suit to void the transfer and restore your ownership. Probably a motion for temporary restraining order to prevent them from selling or further encumbering the property. Would subpoena the notary, run a forensic handwriting analysis, and if everything holds, which it will, we get a court order reversing the quitclaim. And the other option? Criminal charges. Forgery. Notary fraud. Possibly conspiracy depending on who knew what." I looked at the documents spread across the table. My mother's handwriting. "Make sure it looks right. I want my house back," I said. "Or the money. I don't care which. The civil route is faster. And cleaner. You keep control." He leaned forward. "But I need you to understand. Your family isn't going to take this quietly. This kind of case gets ugly. They'll fight. They'll say you're being cruel. They'll play the pregnancy card. They'll make you the villain. They already did that, I said. They just didn't tell me yet. He smiled faintly. Then let's get started. We filed the next week. Complaint for fraud and quiet title. Motion for lease pendens to freeze the property. Temporary restraining order. Request for forensic examination of the signature. The process server delivered the papers on a Thursday afternoon. My mother called 17 times that evening. I didn't answer. She left voicemails, first confused, then hurt, then angry. Lauren, what is this? Why would you do this? Call me. Please. We need to talk about this. You're tearing this family apart. My father sent a text at 11 p.m. This isn't like you. We can work this out. Ashley sent a photo of her ultrasound with a caption, "Is this really worth it?" I turned off my phone and went to bed. The next morning, my parents showed up at the hospital. I was in the middle of a session with a patient, a 58-year-old man recovering from a spinal injury, when the receptionist paged me. Lauren, your parents are in the lobby. They say it's urgent. My patient looked concerned. You need to go? No, I said. We're finishing your representatives. But they didn't leave. When I walked out 20 minutes later, they were sitting in the waiting area. My mother's eyes were red. My father looked exhausted. Lauren. My mother stood. Please. Just talk to us. People were watching. Other patients. Staff. I felt my face get hot. Not here, I said quietly. Then where? My mother's voice cracked. You won't answer your phone. You won't return our calls. What are we supposed to do? You forged my signature. She flinched. My father put a hand on her arm. It wasn't like that, he said. It was a misunderstanding. We thought. You thought I'd signed a deed I never saw? You thought I transferred a house I bought with my own money? I kept my voice low, but I felt it shaking. There was no foreclosure. You lied to me. We were desperate, and my mother whispered. You don't understand the pressure we were under. You took my life savings. And we're grateful. No. I looked at her. You're not. Because if you were grateful, you wouldn't have stolen from me. Lauren. My father stepped forward. Ashley's pregnant. The stress, your mother's blood pressure. Then you should have thought about that before you committed fraud. My mother started crying. Not the quiet kind. The loud, gasping kind that draws every eye in a room. How can you be so cruel? She said. I'm your mother. I felt something inside me go cold and still. I have patience, I said. And I walked away. They kept coming back. Twice more that week. My supervisor, Karen, pulled me aside on Friday. I don't know what's going on, she said. And you don't have to tell me. But if you need time, if you need support, you have it. Thank you, I said. Also, your mother called HR. I closed my eyes. What did she say? That you were under a lot of stress. That she was worried about your judgment. That the family was going through a hard time and she wanted to make sure your patients were safe. Karen's expression was neutral, but her eyes weren't. I told her we have complete confidence in your professionalism, and that any further contact should go through me. I'm sorry. Don't be. Just do me a favor and document everything. Keep records. Protect yourself. I nodded. I was already doing that. The forensic handwriting analysis came back in 3 weeks. The expert was unequivocal. The signature on the quitclaim deed was a simulation, not an authentic signature. Pressure points inconsistent. Hesitation marks. Lack of natural variation. Daniel filed the report with the court. 2 days later, my mother posted on Facebook. Sometimes the people you sacrifice everything for turn their backs when you need them most. Praying for my daughter to find her way back to the family that loves her. #family first #heartbroken. It had 143 likes within an hour. Comments poured in. So sorry you're going through this. Family is everything. She'll come around. Sending prayers. I didn't respond. But Rachel did. She commented, interesting that you're seeking sympathy for a fraud you committed. Lauren has the court documents to prove it. My mother deleted the post an hour later. But the damage spread. I started getting messages from relatives I barely knew. An aunt I hadn't spoken to in 5 years called me selfish. A cousin accused me of ruining Ashley's joy. My grandmother, my father's mother, 92 years old, left a voicemail asking why I was doing this to your poor mother. I wanted to scream. I wanted to send them all the evidence, the photos, the timeline. But Daniel advised against it. Let them talk, he said. Let them show who they are. The court doesn't care about Facebook. The notary cracked first. Her name was Kristen Parrish. She'd gone to college with Ashley, worked as a mobile notary on the side. Daniel's paralegal tracked her down and scheduled a deposition. She showed up in a cardigan and fear. Under oath, she admitted she'd never met me. She'd notarized the quitclaim deed as a favor to Ashley. She'd been told I'd already signed it, that I just couldn't make it in person, that it was a family thing and everyone was on board. Did you witness Lauren Mitchell sign the document? Daniel asked. No. Did you verify her identity? No. Did Ashley Mitchell tell you this was fraudulent? She said it was fine. She said her sister knew. But you didn't confirm that. No. Daniel submitted her testimony to the court. North Carolina notary law is strict. Notarizing without the signer present is a criminal misdemeanor. Kristen's license was suspended pending investigation. Ashley called me for the first time since the lawsuit. You got Kristen in trouble, as she said. No hello. No preamble. Kristen broke the law. She was trying to help. She helped you commit fraud. God, Lauren, do you hear yourself? You sound insane. This is about a house. A house. Is it really worth destroying the family? You already did that, I said. I'm just writing it down. She hung up. But Brandon didn't. He reached out a week later through Daniel's office. He wanted to talk. Off the record. We met at a coffee shop in Ballantine, neutral territory. He looked like he hadn't slept. I didn't know, he said immediately. Not at first. I said nothing. When Ashley told me her parents were signing the house over, I thought it was, I don't know, generous. A wedding gift. I didn't ask questions. He rubbed his face. Then I overheard your mom and Ashley talking. About how they'd handled the signature. About how you didn't need to know because it was really their house anyway. When was this? 2 weeks before the party. And you didn't say anything. I told Ashley I was uncomfortable. That we should talk to you. He looked at me. She said you'd agreed to everything. That you were just being weird about paperwork. I believed her. Do you still? No. He swallowed. I've been thinking about the baby. About what kind of father I want to be. And I can't start a family on something stolen. I can't teach my kid to be honest if I'm living in a house we got by lying. What are you saying? I'll testify, he said. Whatever you need. I'll tell the court what I heard. I believed him. I didn't forgive him. But I believed him. Daniel drafted an affidavit. Brandon signed it. In it, he detailed the conversation he'd overheard, the timeline, Ashley's dismissals of his concerns. It was careful. Precise. Damning. When Ashley found out, she showed up at my apartment at 10 p.m. I heard the pounding on the door and looked through the peephole. She was alone, crying, furious. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. You turned him against me, she said. I didn't have to. He has a conscience. He's the father of my child, Lauren. Do you understand that? You're tearing apart my family. Your family was built on theft. It was a mistake. Mom made a mistake. She was trying to help us. By stealing from me. She didn't steal. She lied to get my money, forged my signature, and gave my house to you. What do you call that? Ashley's face twisted. I call it a mother protecting her child. Something you wouldn't understand because you're too selfish to even try. The words landed, sharp and familiar. I'd heard versions of them my whole life. You're so serious, Lauren. You need to loosen up, Lauren. Why can't you just let it go, Lauren? Go home, Ashley, I said. This is my home. No, I said. It's mine. And I have the deed to prove it. I closed the door. The court date was set for October 15th, Judge Maria Delgado presiding. My mother and father sat on one side of the courtroom with their attorney, a small-time real estate lawyer who looked in over his head. Ashley sat between them, visibly pregnant now, wearing a soft blue dress clearly chosen to emphasize her condition. Brandon sat 2 rows back. Alone. I sat on my side with Daniel. Rachel was in the gallery. So was Karen from work. So were 3 of my co-workers who'd asked if they could come. Judge Delgado was in her 60s, black robe, no-nonsense expression. This is a motion to void a quitclaim deed on grounds of fraud, as she said. Mr. Brooks, you may proceed. Daniel presented the evidence methodically. The original warranty deed in my name. The falsified quitclaim. The forensic report. Kristen Parrish's deposition. Brandon's affidavit. Rachel's testimony about the absence of any foreclosure filing. My bank records showing the $214,000 wire transfer and mortgage payments I'd made for 18 months. My parents' attorney argued that the transfer was intended as a family gift. That I'd always understood the house would go to Ashley eventually. That this was a misunderstanding, not fraud. Judge Delgado interrupted him. Counsel, I've reviewed the forensic report. The signature was forged. The notary admitted she didn't witness the signing. The defendant's own fiancé testified that he overheard the family discussing how to handle the signature without the plaintiff's knowledge. She looked over her reading glasses. Where exactly is the misunderstanding? Your Honor, my clients are not sophisticated in legal matters. They were sophisticated enough to hire a notary and file a quitclaim deed. The plaintiff's sister is pregnant. The family is under considerable stress. Pregnancy, a Judge Delgado said evenly, is not a defense to forgery. My mother started crying. The judge didn't look at her. She granted everything. Temporary restraining order. Forensic confirmation. Voiding of the fraudulent quitclaim deed. Restoration of title to my name. And she awarded attorney's fees. This is not a family dispute, a Judge Delgado said. This is fraud. The plaintiff is entitled to full restoration of her property interest and compensation for the costs incurred in defending her legal ownership. The defendants are fortunate that criminal charges have not been pursued. It was over in 90 minutes. I walked out of the courthouse into October sun. Rachel hugged me. Karen squeezed my shoulder. My co-workers offered to take me to lunch. I thanked them and said I needed to be alone. I drove to the house, my house, and parked across the street. It looked the same. The hydrangeas were blooming. A pumpkin sat on the front step. I didn't go inside. I didn't knock. I just sat there for a while, looking at the place I'd saved for 12 years, the place I'd given up my dream to protect. And I realized I didn't want it anymore. Not because they'd poisoned it, though they had, but because it had never been mine in the way that mattered. I'd bought it out of obligation. I'd poured my savings into it out of guilt. I'd carried the mortgage out of loyalty. But I'd never chosen it for myself. So I sold it. The market was good. The house appraised at $438,000. After the mortgage and closing costs, I walked away with $227,000. More than I'd started with. Enough to buy something smaller. Something mine. I found a craftsman bungalow in Matthews, 20 minutes from the hospital. 2 bedrooms, original hardwood floors, a backyard with an old oak tree. It cost $325,000. I paid cash. The day I moved in, Rachel brought wine. Daniel brought a housewarming cactus. Karen and my co-workers brought food. We sat on my empty living room floor eating Thai takeout and talking about anything but the lawsuit. It suits you, Rachel said, looking around. This place. Yeah, I said. It does. A month later, an envelope arrived in my mailbox. No return address. Inside was a photo of a baby girl, wrinkled and red-faced and sleeping. On the back, in Ashley's handwriting, her name is Lily. I put the photo on my refrigerator. Not because I forgave them. Not because I wanted them back in my life. But because Lily wasn't responsible for what they'd done. And maybe someday, if she wanted to know me, I'd tell her the truth. That winter, I started mentoring a new PT at the hospital, a 25-year-old named Jordan who reminded me of myself at that age. Hardworking. Serious. Afraid to disappoint anyone. My mom wants me to move back home, she told me one day. Help with rent. She says it's just temporary, but you don't think it is, I finished. I feel guilty, as she said. Like I'm being selfish. I thought about my black budgeting notebook. The 12 years. The missed vacations. The townhouse in South End I'd never lived in. You're allowed to build your own life, I said. Even if it hurts their feelings. What if they don't understand? Then they don't understand. She looked at me for a long moment. Did someone not understand you? Several people, I said. But I understand me. And that turned out to be enough. In March, I planted a garden in my backyard. Tomatoes, cucumbers, basil, zinnies. I bought a bench from a yard sale and set it under the oak tree. On warm evenings, I'd sit out there with a book and listen to the neighborhood sounds, kids playing, dogs barking, the distant hum of lawnmowers. One Saturday, I hung a small wooden sign by the front door. Rachel had made it for me, burned the letters in herself. Peace is more valuable than possession. I stood back and looked at it. At my house. My small, intentional, quiet house. I thought about my mother's hydrangeas. About the champagne tower. About Ashley's Instagram-perfect smile at the party, her hand on her belly, her certainty that what she wanted was what she deserved. I thought about the courthouse. About Judge Delgado's voice, pregnancy is not a defense to forgery. I thought about Brandon sitting 2 rows back, alone, choosing the harder thing. I thought about my father's text, "This isn't like you." But it was like me. It had always been like me. I'd just spent 36 years not wanting to see it. I'd been so afraid of conflict. So desperate to be the good daughter, that I'd let them take everything. My money. My dream. My name on a deed I'd bought with 12 years of double shifts and meal-prepped lunches and empty Sunday mornings. They'd thought the house was the prize. That ownership was the point. But they'd lost something they didn't even know to value, the right to call it home. The right to say a family here and mean safety. The right to ask for help and receive it without suspicion. I'd spent 18 months paying a mortgage on a house I never lived in, trying to save people who were already planning how to take more. Now I had 2 bedrooms, hardwood floors, and a garden I planted with my own hands. They thought they could take my house. What they lost was the right to ever call it home. I walked inside, locked the door behind me, and felt, for the first time in 12 years, like I was exactly where I belonged.